The stars twisted and bent as 300 alien ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The massive fleet hung in the darkness like a swarm of metal insects, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of the sun. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built, and together they formed a wall of death that stretched across space. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Fang. His yellow eyes swept across the view screens, showing the small blue planet called Earth. The reptilian commander had done this 47 times before. 47 different worlds had fallen to his fleet. 47 civilizations had begged for mercy before being crushed under the might of the Zeridian Empire. This would be number 48. "Scan the system," Kethvar ordered, his voice a low hiss that echoed through the bridge. His forked tongue flicked out to taste the recycled air. Around him, his crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had performed this dance of conquest many times. "Scanning complete," Admiral reported. His science officer, Rickstall. The smaller Zeridian's claws clicked against his control panel as he read the data. The third planet shows signs of industrial civilization. Population approximately 8 billion. Technology level appears primitive. They have achieved basic spaceflight, but nothing more. Kethvar's lips pulled back to show his sharp teeth. Perfect. The humans would be just advanced enough to understand what was happening to them, but too weak to resist. The Empire preferred it that way. Complete domination was more satisfying when the prey knew they were beaten. "Any military installations?" the Admiral asked. "A few orbital stations around their home world," Rickstall replied. "Nothing that could threaten even one of our scout ships. Their largest vessels appear to be cargo haulers and mining ships. We detect no weapon systems capable of harming our fleet." The bridge crew exchanged glances and low chuckles. Another easy conquest, another world to add to the Empire's growing territory. Kethvar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The High Command would be pleased with such a quick victory. "Open a communication channel to the planet," he commanded. "Let us begin the final ritual." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Crushing Fang being broadcast to Earth. Kethvar stepped forward, his 8-foot frame casting a long shadow across the floor. His battle armor gleamed with the symbols of his many victories. "Humans of Earth," he began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zeridian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our territory. You will surrender immediately and submit to our rule." He paused, letting the words sink in. On 47 worlds, this moment had been met with panic, desperate attempts at negotiation, or immediate surrender. The pattern never changed. "Your civilization is primitive," Kethvar continued. "Your technology is weak. Your military is nothing compared to the might of the Empire. We offer you one chance to avoid complete destruction. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to serve as workers in our mines and factories. Resist, and every city on your planet will be reduced to ash." The Admiral gestured to his weapons officer. "You have 6 hours to decide. After that time, we will demonstrate our power by destroying your largest population center. Then we will give you another chance to surrender. If you still refuse, we will continue destroying your cities until you submit or until there are no humans left to resist." Kethvar expected the usual response. Frantic messages begging for mercy. Desperate attempts to buy time. Leaders arguing among themselves about what to do. He had seen it all before. Instead, the reply came quickly and calmly. "Message received," said a human voice from the communication system. "Earth Defense Command acknowledges your ultimatum. One ship is being dispatched to discuss terms. Please maintain your current position while our representative approaches." Kethvar blinked his yellow eyes. That was not the response he had expected. He looked at his communication officer, who confirmed the message was genuine. "They are sending." "One ship?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir. Our sensors detect a single vessel leaving Earth orbit and heading in our direction. It appears to be a medium-sized cruiser." The bridge fell silent. Kethver had never encountered such a response. One ship against 300? Were the humans completely insane? Or were they simply too primitive to understand the situation? "What type of vessel?" he demanded. "Unknown class." The sensor operator replied. "It does not match any design in our database. Length approximately 400 meters. We are having difficulty getting detailed scans due to some kind of interference." Kethver's forked tongue flicked out again. Something about this felt wrong. In his experience, desperate. Species either surrendered immediately or threw everything they had at his fleet in a hopeless last stand. They did not send a single ship to negotiate. "Could it be a trick?" asked his tactical officer. "Perhaps they are trying to get close enough to detonate some kind of weapon? With one ship?" Kethver shook his head. "Even if they destroyed themselves and took out our flagship, we would still have 299 vessels to complete the conquest. No, this is something else." He studied the tactical display showing the approaching human vessel. It was moving at a steady pace, not trying to hide or use any kind of stealth technology. If it was a suicide mission, it was a very poor one. "Perhaps they truly believe they can negotiate," suggested Rixtel. "Some species do not understand the concept of overwhelming force until they see it demonstrated." That made more sense. The humans were probably hoping to buy time or convince the Empire to spare their world in exchange for resources or technology. It was a common delusion among primitive species. "Very well," Kethver decided. "We will allow their representative to approach. It will be amusing to see what they think they can offer us. And when they realize the hopelessness of their situation, their despair will make the final victory even sweeter." The Admiral turned to his weapons officer. "Keep all batteries trained on the approaching vessel. If they try anything suspicious, destroy them immediately." "Yes, sir." Kethver settled back in his command chair and watched the human ship approach. Soon, the final conquest would begin. Soon, Earth would join the long list of worlds that had fallen to the Zeridian Empire. And soon, he would add another victory, symbol to his armor. The only question was how long the humans would take to realize they had already lost. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the alien fleet grow larger on his screens. 300 ships hung in space like a metal storm cloud, each one bigger than his own vessel. Any sane person would have turned around and run. But Jake Morrison had stopped considering himself completely sane the day he joined Earth Defense Command. "Distance to alien fleet?" he asked calmly. 2 million kilometers and closing, replied Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes from her tactical station. Her fingers moved across her controls with practiced ease. "They have us targeted with what looks like their entire weapons array." "Of course they do," Morrison said with a slight smile. "Wouldn't want to disappoint them." The bridge of the Defiance was smaller than the alien flagship, but every surface hummed with quiet energy. The crew of 200 humans worked it there. Stations with the calm focus of people who knew exactly what they were doing. There was no panic, no fear in their voices. Just professional determination. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Danny Cooper from his station. "All systems are green. Power levels at normal operating parameters. The special modifications are ready when you give the word." "Thank you, Danny. Keep everything running smooth." For now, Morrison studied the alien fleet through the main viewer. The ships were impressive, he had to admit. Massive hulls covered in weapon ports and armor plating. They looked like they could pound a planet to dust, which was probably exactly what they were designed to do. "Any word from Earth Command?" he asked, Last message confirmed our mission parameters, Hayes replied. We are authorized to use our full discretion in handling this situation. Morrison nodded. Full discretion meant he could do whatever he thought was necessary to protect Earth. The politicians back home had decided to trust his judgment completely. It was both liberating and terrifying. Incoming transmission from the alien flagship, reported Communications Officer Pete Rodriguez. They want to talk. Put them through. The main screen flickered and changed to show the bridge of the alien ship. Morrison found himself looking at a creature straight out of humanity's worst nightmares. 8 feet tall, covered in scales, with yellow eyes and far too many sharp teeth. The alien wore armor decorated with symbols that probably represented all the worlds he had conquered. I am Admiral Kethfor of the Zeridian Empire, the creature announced. You are the human representative sent to negotiate your species' surrender? Captain. Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Command, Morrison replied politely. I'm here to discuss the terms of your immediate withdrawal from this system. The alien's laugh was like nails on metal. Behind him, other reptilian creatures joined in the harsh sound. Morrison waited patiently for them to finish. You amuse me, human, Kethfor said finally. You bring one small ship against my fleet of 300 and speak of our withdrawal? Your species is even more primitive than our intelligence reports suggested. Intelligence can be tricky, Morrison agreed. Sometimes you don't get the whole picture. There is no mystery here, the alien admiral replied. You will surrender now, or I will destroy your pathetic vessel and proceed to attack your world. Perhaps watching your ship die will help your leaders understand their situation. Morrison glanced at Hayes, who gave him a small nod. Everything was ready. Admiral, before you make any hasty decisions, I think you should know something about humans, Morrison said, his voice still calm and friendly. We don't like bullies, and we really don't like ultimatums. Your preferences are irrelevant, Kethfor snarled. Surrender or die. I have a better idea, Morrison replied. Why don't I show you why Earth has never lost a war? He turned to Hayes. Lisa, power up the defensive systems. Aye, sir, bringing defensive systems online. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as massive amounts of power began flowing through the ship's systems. On the alien flagship, Morrison could see confused looks as their sensors started picking up energy readings that didn't make sense. What are you doing? Kethfor demanded. Just making sure we can have a proper conversation, Morrison said. Danny, reconfigure the hull. Hull reconfiguration. In progress. Cooper replied from engineering. The Defiance began to change. What had looked like a simple cruiser started to shift and expand. Hidden armor plates slid out from concealed compartments. Weapon ports that hadn't been visible before opened along the hull. The ship grew larger and more menacing as its true form was revealed. Impossible, one of the aliens whispered on the screen. Lisa, bring the main power plant to full capacity, Morrison ordered. Main reactor at 100%, Hayes confirmed. All auxiliary systems online. Weapon systems charged and ready. The energy readings from the Defiance spiked to levels that made the alien sensors scream warnings. On their screens, the single human ship was now showing power signatures that exceeded their own dreadnought-class vessels. This is not possible, Kethfor said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Your technology is primitive. Our intelligence reports confirmed this. Your intelligence reports were incomplete, Morrison explained patiently. You see, Admiral, humanity learned a long time ago that the best way to win a fight is to make sure your enemy underestimates you. We've been watching your empire expand across the galaxy. We know how you operate. We've been preparing for this meeting for years. More alarms started sounding on the alien bridge as their sensors detected other changes throughout the solar system. Mining stations that had appeared harmless were revealing weapon emplacements. Cargo ships were dropping their disguises to show military hulls. Asteroids were opening up to release hidden defense platforms. What you thought was a defenseless system is actually the most heavily fortified region of space in this part of the galaxy, Morrison continued. What you thought was a primitive species is actually your technological superior. And what you thought was going to be an easy conquest is about to become the worst mistake of your military career. Admiral Kethvar stared at the human captain, with growing horror as the full scope of his miscalculation became clear. The hunter had become the hunted, and he hadn't even realized when the trap had closed around him. Admiral Kethvar felt his blood turn cold as he watched the impossible readings flood his sensor screens. The single human ship in front of his fleet was now showing energy signatures that should not exist. Behind him, his bridge crew worked, frantically at their stations, trying to understand what they were seeing. Science Officer Rick Stahl, report, he commanded, his voice tight with growing concern. Admiral, the human vessel is generating power levels equivalent to our largest battleships. Rick Stahl replied, his claws clicking nervously on his controls. But that should be impossible. The ship is only 400 meters long. No vessel that size should be able to house such a reactor. Could our sensors be malfunctioning? Kethvar asked, though he already knew the answer. I have run full diagnostics 3 times. All systems are functioning normally. The readings are accurate. Kethvar turned his attention back to the human captain on the main screen. Jake Morrison sat calmly in his command chair, showing no sign of fear or desperation. If anything, he looked almost bored. Impressive technology, Kethvar said, trying to keep his voice steady. But you are still one ship against 300. Even with your power advantage, you cannot hope to defeat my entire fleet. Morrison smiled. You're right, Admiral. One ship against 300 wouldn't be fair. That's why I didn't come alone. Before Kethvar could ask what he meant, contacts began appearing on the tactical displays throughout the Zeridian fleet. Ships that had been invisible moments before were suddenly there, scattered throughout the solar system. What the aliens had dismissed as civilian mining operations and cargo haulers were revealing their true nature. Stealth systems disengaging, Morrison announced cheerfully. I'd like you to meet the rest of Earth's defense fleet. The space around. The alien armada filled with human warships. They materialized from empty space like ghosts becoming solid. Some had been hiding behind asteroids. Others had been using advanced cloaking technology that made them completely invisible to Zeridian sensors. Still others had been disguised as harmless civilian vessels. Impossible, whispered Communications Officer Velenoth from his station. Our sensors detected nothing. How did they hide so many ships? Kethvar counted the new contacts on his tactical display. 50 human warships had appeared as if from nowhere. Each one was showing the same impossible power readings as the Defiance. His fleet still outnumbered them 6-1, but the technological advantage he had counted on was gone. As you can see, Morrison continued from the screen, we've been expecting you. The Zeridian Empire has a reputation for conquering primitive worlds. We decided it was time someone taught you what happens when you pick on a species that's not as helpless as you thought. Your intelligence reports were deliberately false, Kethvar realized. You wanted us to believe you were weak. Not false, Morrison corrected. Just incomplete. We've been very careful about what information we let leak into galactic networks. Most of what you know about humanity comes from our civilian shipping and exploration vessels. Our military capabilities have been kept strictly classified. Chief, Science Officer Rick Stahl looked up from his station with panic in his yellow eyes. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. There are weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt. The space stations around their planet are not civilian installations. They're fortified military bases. Kethfer felt the walls of the trap closing around him. The humans had not just hidden a few ships. They had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every asteroid, every space station, every piece of debris could potentially be a weapon aimed at his fleet. "How long have you been preparing for this?" he asked Morrison. "About 50 years, the human captain replied casually. "Ever since we first learned about your empire's expansion, we've been watching you conquer world after world, studying your tactics, learning your weaknesses, and we've been preparing." 50 years? Velinov echoed in disbelief. Morrison nodded. "Humans are very good at long-term planning, Admiral. We saw which direction your empire was expanding and calculated that you would reach our space eventually. So we prepared. We built weapons you've never seen. We developed defensive systems you can't penetrate. We created strategies specifically designed to counter your fleet tactics." Kethfer looked at his tactical officer. "Assessment?" The younger Zeridian's voice shook as he replied. "Admiral, if these readings are accurate, we are facing combined firepower equal to our own. But their technology appears to be more advanced than ours. Their weapons systems are unknown to us. We have no data on their defensive capabilities." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that this is not the easy conquest we expected. This could be a genuine fight." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethfer felt doubt creep into his mind. The Zeridian Empire had built its reputation on overwhelming primitive worlds with superior technology and massive numbers. They had never faced an enemy that was technologically equal or superior. They had never walked into a trap this carefully prepared. "Perhaps we should reconsider our approach," suggested Riksdal quietly. "If the humans are this well prepared, they might have additional surprises waiting for us." Kethfer wanted to dismiss the suggestion, but he could not ignore what his sensors were telling him. The humans had not just matched his fleet's capabilities. They had been preparing for this specific confrontation for decades. They knew everything about Zeridian tactics and technology, while he knew almost nothing about theirs. "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "what exactly are you proposing?" "I'm proposing that you turn your fleet around and leave our space immediately," Morrison replied, with the same calm tone he had used throughout the conversation. "Go back to your empire and tell them that humanity is not interested in becoming part of their territory. Find some other species to bully. And if we refuse?" Morrison's smile disappeared. "Then you'll discover why Earth has never lost a war, Admiral, and I promise you, it will be a lesson your empire will never forget." The threat hung in the space between the two fleets like a loaded weapon. Kethfer realized that everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted, and for the first time in his career, he was not sure his fleet would survive the encounter. Captain Morrison watched Admiral Kethfer's expression change on the main screen. The alien commander was beginning to understand just how badly he had miscalculated the situation. But Morrison knew that understanding and accepting were two different things. Bullies rarely backed down until they were shown the consequences of their actions. "Admiral," Morrison said calmly, "I can see you're having trouble believing what you're seeing. That's understandable. Your empire has had things easy for a long time. You've gotten used to primitive species that can't fight back. Let me help you understand your new situation." He turned to his tactical officer. "Lisa, bring weapons to full power. Target the asteroid at grid reference 77 Alpha." "Lieutenant." Commander Hayes worked at her station with practiced efficiency. "Weapon systems at maximum power, Captain. Target locked. Quantum torpedo tubes loaded and ready." "Quantum torpedoes?" Riksdal whispered on the alien bridge. "That's impossible. No species has mastered quantum manipulation for weapons. Morrison heard the comment through the open communication channel. Actually, we figured that out about 20 years ago. Would you like a demonstration? Wait, Kethver said quickly. There is no need for fire. Morrison ordered. The used Defiance launched a single torpedo at the target asteroid. The weapon was small, no bigger than a shuttlecraft, and it moved at what seemed like normal speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the asteroid began to glow. The glow started small, just a pinpoint of light on the rocky surface. But it spread quickly, consuming the entire asteroid in brilliant white energy. The rock didn't explode in the traditional sense. Instead, it seemed to dissolve, its matter converting directly into pure energy. For several seconds, a miniature star blazed in the darkness of space, visible across multiple star systems. When the light faded, the asteroid was gone. Not destroyed, not shattered into pieces, but completely erased from existence. Only empty space remained where tons of rock had been moments before. The alien bridge fell silent. Even the background hum of machinery seemed to quiet as the full implications sank in. Kethver stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been, his yellow eyes wide with shock. That was approximately 1% of our standard firepower, Morrison said conversationally. The torpedo was set to its lowest power setting for demonstration purposes. At full power, it could destroy one of your dreadnoughts in a single hit. Chief Engineer Danny Cooper's voice came over the bridge intercom. Captain, all weapon systems are functioning normally. We have full torpedo loads in all tubes. Main batteries are charged and ready. Power levels are stable across all systems. Thank you, Danny, Morrison replied. Then he looked directly at Admiral Kethver. As you can see, Admiral, we're not the helpless primitives you expected to find. Every ship in our fleet carries weapons like the one you just witnessed. Every defense platform in this system is armed with technology your Empire has never encountered. Weapons. Officer Ben Martinez spoke up from his station. Captain, I have targeting solutions on all 300 enemy vessels. Their shields and armor configurations are in our database. We can achieve total fleet destruction in approximately 4 minutes. Morrison nodded. Thank you, Ben. Admiral Kethver, did you hear that? My weapons officer has just confirmed that we can destroy your entire fleet in 4 minutes. Not defeat it, not damage it, but completely destroy it. Every ship, every crew member, every piece of technology you brought to our system. Kethver's voice was barely a whisper. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated you had barely achieved interstellar flight. Your intelligence was based on what we wanted you to see, Morrison explained patiently. We've been traveling between stars for over a century, Admiral. We've explored hundreds of systems. We've encountered dozens of alien species. And we've been preparing for the day when someone like you showed up at our door. You've been in contact with other species? Velinoth asked from his communication station. But the galactic networks show no record of human contact with other civilizations. Morrison smiled. That's because we're very good at keeping secrets when we need. 2. We've been trading with peaceful species for decades. We've been studying the technology of hostile species we've defeated. We've been learning everything we could about the galaxy while making sure aggressive empires like yours remained ignorant of our true capabilities. The truth was sinking in for the entire alien fleet. They had not discovered a new species to conquer. They had walked into a trap set by a civilization that was far more advanced and experienced than they had imagined. This changes everything, Riksdal said quietly. If humans have this level of technology, if they've been hiding it for so long, what else don't we know about them? Morrison heard the question and decided to answer it. You don't know that we've been in contact with 17 other species that your empire has marked for conquest. You don't know that we've been sharing our defensive technology with them. You don't know that your next 3 target systems are already prepared for your arrival. Kethver's claws dug into the armrests of his command chair. You're bluffing. Am I? Morrison asked. Ben, show the Admiral what happened to the Zeridian scout fleet that tried to enter the Centauri system last month. Martinez brought up a tactical display showing the wreckage of 5 alien ships drifting in space. Scouting force destroyed by automated defense systems. No survivors. The wreckage was left as a message to any other Zeridian forces that might follow. You've been killing our scouts? Kethver demanded. We've been defending our allies, Morrison corrected. Species that your empire planned to conquer. Species that are now under human protection. Your expansion in this direction of the galaxy has come to an end, Admiral. The alien commander looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. For the first time in his military career, he was facing an enemy that was not only equal to his forces, but clearly superior. Worse, it was an enemy that had been planning this confrontation for decades. What do you want? He asked finally. Morrison leaned forward in his chair. I want you to take your fleet and leave this system immediately. I want you to return to your empire and tell them that humanity is not available for conquest. And I want you to spread the word that any Zeridian ship that enters human space or threatens our allies will be destroyed without warning. And if we refuse? Morrison's expression hardened. Then you'll become the first Zeridian fleet to be completely destroyed by human forces. The choice is yours, Admiral. Leave now, or find out what happens when you threaten Earth's children. Admiral Kethvar stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been destroyed. His mind raced through the impossible situation he now found himself in. 300 ships under his command, the pride of the Zeridian Empire, and they were all helpless against this single human vessel and its hidden fleet. The bridge of the crushing fang was silent, except for the quiet beeping of alarm systems. His crew looked to him for orders, but for the first time in his long military career, Kethver had no idea what to do. Every option he could think of led to the complete destruction of his fleet. Admiral, his tactical officer said quietly, our weapons are still locked onto the human ship. We could fire everything we have and hope to damage them before they respond. Kethver considered this for exactly 3 seconds. And then what? Even if we destroyed their flagship, they still have 50 other ships with the same weapons. We would be signing the death warrant for every Zeridian in this fleet. But sir, the Empire expects us to fight. We cannot simply retreat without firing a shot. The Empire expects us to conquer new worlds, Kethver replied grimly. It does not expect us to commit suicide. On the main screen, Captain Morrison waited patiently for an answer. The human showed no sign of impatience or anger. He simply sat in his command chair like someone who had all the time in the world. Behind him, his crew continued their work with the calm efficiency of people who knew they held all the advantages. Admiral, Science Officer Riksdal said from his station, I'm detecting more human ships moving into position throughout the system. They're surrounding us. Kethver looked at his tactical display. The humans were indeed moving to surround his fleet, but they were doing it slowly, almost casually. There was no rush, no sense of urgency. They knew his ships were trapped, and were simply making sure there was no possibility of escape. How many ships do they have? He asked. At least 80 that we can detect, Riksdal replied. But given their stealth capabilities, there could be many more that we cannot see. The full scope of the trap became clear to Kethver. The humans had not just prepared defenses for their home system. They had built a military force specifically designed to destroy Zeridian fleets. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic had been developed with one purpose in mind: stopping the expansion of his empire. Communications Officer Velinoth, open a private channel to the fleet, he ordered. Channel open, sir. Kethver took a deep breath before speaking to his 300 ship commanders. All vessels, this is Admiral Kethver. You have seen what we face here. The humans possess technology that exceeds our own. Their weapons can destroy our ships with single shots. Their fleet outnumbers us when we include their hidden vessels. Continuing this engagement will result in the complete destruction of our force. He paused, knowing his next words would change everything. I am ordering a full retreat from this system. All ships will prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We will return to Empire space and report our findings to High Command. The response was immediate and angry. Ship commanders throughout the fleet protested the order. Some called him a coward. Others demanded the chance to fight despite the odds. A few suggested that retreat would mean disgrace and court-martial. Kethvar listened to the complaints for 30 seconds before cutting them off. Enough. I am the fleet commander, and I take full responsibility for this decision. Any captain who refuses to obey the retreat order will be left behind to face the humans alone. Prepare for hyperspace jump immediately. He closed the fleet channel and turned back to Captain Morrison on the main screen. The human had waited through the entire exchange without comment. Captain Morrison, Kethver said formally, the Zeridian Empire fleet will withdraw from this system immediately. We will not return. A wise decision, Admiral, Morrison replied. But before you leave, I want to make sure you understand something. This encounter has been recorded and will be transmitted to every human colony and every species under our protection. If any Zeridian ship attacks human interests anywhere in the galaxy, we will consider it an act of war. Understood. Furthermore, Morrison continued, we will be establishing patrol routes along your Empire's border. Any Zeridian vessel that crosses into what we consider human space will be destroyed without warning. The days of your Empire expanding in this direction are over. Kethver nodded slowly. He had come to conquer a primitive world, and instead had run into a military force that could destroy his entire empire if they chose to do so. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically, and the Zeridian Empire was no longer the dominant force it had been that morning. There is one more thing, Morrison added. The species you have marked for conquest in this region are now under human protection. If you attack any of them, you will be attacking us. I suggest you find new territory to expand into, Admiral, far away from here. The message will be delivered to our High Command, Kethver said stiffly. I'm sure it will. Safe travels, Admiral. And remember, Earth never forgets a threat. Kethver turned to his navigation officer. All ships, jump coordinates laid in for Empire space. Execute hyperspace jump on my command. Sir, Riksdal said quietly. What will you tell the High Command? Kethver considered the question carefully. How could he explain that the mighty Zeridian Empire had been completely outmaneuvered by a species they had considered primitive? How could he describe weapons that turned matter into energy and ships that appeared from nowhere? I will tell them the truth, he said finally. Humanity is not a species to be conquered. They are a species to be avoided. And any admiral who ignores that advice will lose their entire fleet. Jump coordinates confirmed, the navigation officer reported. All ships ready for hyperspace. Kethver took one last look at the human fleet surrounding his forces. In his long military career, he had seen many defeated enemies. He had watched civilizations fall and species surrender, but he had never been on the receiving end of such overwhelming defeat. Execute jump, he ordered. Space twisted around the Zeridian fleet as 300 ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving the solar system as quickly as they had arrived. Behind them, the human ships maintained their positions, ready to defend their home against any future threats. On the bridge of the UEC's Defiance, Captain Morrison watched the alien fleet disappear. "Well, that went better than expected," he said, with satisfaction. "Think they'll be back?" asked Lieutenant Commander Hayes. Morrison shook his head. "Not this fleet. And once word spreads about what happened here, I doubt any Zeridian ship will come within 100 light-years of human space." The first test of humanity's true military might was over. And across the galaxy, the word would soon spread that Earth's children were not the easy targets aggressive empires had believed them to be.